I just finished watching this gangsta-ass movie called Crank. Basically starts off with this guy named James. He wakes up in his apartment, he's like staggering all over the place. Then he finds this CD that says fuck you on it, puts it in the CD player. It's actually a DVD. One of the DVDs is this guy named Ricky. And basically he laced James with some type of bohemian cocktail. It's some type of drug that goes in your stream or bloodstream or system or whatever. And basically he's living on borrowed time. He's basically got about an hour to live. So he gets up, gets in his car, he tries to call the doctor. Try to see if he can help him out. Doc was on vacation somewhere. He's heading on a plane to get back. It's gonna take her like 45 minutes. But the reason why Ricky even poisoned this dude in the first place is because James had killed some dude named the Don King. I guess he was a higher contract killer or something like that. So now he's gotta find some type of antidote. Just when he finally reaches the doctor, there's really no antidote. He starts feeling sleepy in the car as he's driving, but he's trying to keep himself up. So basically the doc tells him he gotta keep his adrenaline up. Because if his heart slows down, he stops, basically he basically dies. So he ends up going to the spot where all these black guys are at. One particular dude's supposed to know where Ricky is, but he doesn't. He's like, shit, if I knew where he's at, I'd get that motherfucker myself. He owes me money. Then he buys some coke from him, starts sniffing it up. Helps him out a little bit, but not much. He tries calling his girlfriend. She ain't answering the phone. Then he calls this dude named Ty. He calls him and tells him to try to find anybody related to Ricky and Tan and all this other stuff. Ty's on the case. Then he calls Ricky and he's ready for the beef. Ricky's been hiding out, so he can't find him. He tells Ricky like, yeah, you're trying to kill me, you're fucking over Cheeto. Cheeto's responsible for having James kill the Don King. But apparently Ricky and Cheeto came to a understanding. So James is like, fuck all that, he's about to go see him himself. So he goes over to the spot to talk to Cheeto himself. Cheeto's like, yeah, man, he's right. Ricky, we got to understand it. So James is like, what the fuck? But James ain't got time to answer Cheeto. He's got to try to find some type of antidote. So he's going all around the city. He goes to this hospital. Goes to this spot. He's trying to get some epidermin or something like that. Then I try to prescribe it to him. This guy in the store tells him like, hey, take that nasal spray. It has epidermin in it. So he takes a bunch of them shits. He had a car he was driving in, but then it was like a police chase. Ends up turning the car sideways up against the escalator in a mall. Like, the fuck? So now he's in a taxi. The nasal stuff wasn't really doing a whole lot. So he goes to a convenience store, starts grabbing up all the Red Bulls, all these energy drinks, stuffs them in a bag, starts drinking them shits when he gets back in the cab. Then he calls Ty. Ty's standing outside this taco stand. He said right across the street, Ricky's brother just walked in a restaurant or something like that. James meets up there and goes to see the brother. End up knocking his ass off with his own gun. Calls out Ricky. Of course, Ricky's pissed off. Meanwhile, he's thinking to himself, like, shouldn't you be dead by now? Once again, he's been very resourceful, you know, getting energy drinks, epidermin, and all that shit. So he's constantly keeping his heart going. There's a bunch of car scenes and craziness in the process. The way it skims around each scene is wild. Makes you feel like you're on adrenaline along with him. So anyway, he calls, he finally gets through to his girlfriend, Amy. She lets him in, he's about to fix some waffles and whatnot. He's got to fix the clock on her nightstand. Meanwhile, while he's there, this stuff is wearing off. To keep his adrenaline going, he sticks his hand in a hot waffle iron. He's ready to spaz the fuck out. Meanwhile, Ricky's boys is trying to come kill him at this point because they done knocked off his brother. Now, throughout all this, Amy really doesn't even know what James does for a living. He told her he was some type of video game software product or something. Producer, my bad. But then he finally gets her to the table, tells her the real deal. She thinks it's some bullshit. In fact, she thinks he's trying to break up with her. Then he tries to stop her. All of a sudden, his heart starts feeling again. He's like, oh shit. And he comes up with the idea of giving her the business right then and there in the street. At first, she's like, what the fuck? I'm not doing this outside in front of a bunch of people. But then he gets in the mood and all of a sudden, she's with it. He ends up smashing outside. There's a bunch of people cheering him on. It's hilarious. Then all of a sudden, he gets a call from the bosses. He's about to head over to this warehouse. He gets over there. It turns out they end up killing Ty. And on top of that, they just want James to go. He's basically collateral damage at this point. So James is basically about to lay all these niggas out. His girlfriend Amy comes to the warehouse. She sees all this carnage. Finds out he's not lying. This is what he really does. So when they try to escape and get away in the car, he has the realization of what's going on with him. And then while they're driving, she starts giving him head in the car. You know, to keep his adrenaline going. That's some wild shit. And throughout all this, he's finally able to get to the doctor. He gives him some type of like epiderm and like some adrenaline stuff mixed with meth, which is only basically slowing down the process. Now the doc was telling him he's doing whatever he can to get this stuff going so it could flush the poison out of his system. 9 times out of 10, he's probably going to end up dying from it. So he's thinking to himself, fuck it, he's going to go out in a blaze of glory. He calls up Ricky and tells him like, look man, I know you got an antidote or some shit like that. I'll meet you at such and such building. But he knows going there is going to bring him death. But before that, we end up getting a flashback. We find out the person he was supposed to kill, the Don King, turns out he never really killed him. He let him go and told him to leave the city within the next 48 hours or some shit like that. So that's time for the main event. Time to go to the building where Chitori and Ricky's at. They get to the top floor, both them niggas chilling together. He gets up there, they start talking, and then Chitori pulls out a syringe. We're gonna find out it ain't an antidote, it's more of a cocktail. So we're thinking James is pretty much fucked, right? Then all of a sudden, shots go off. Turns out he came up there with Don King and his boys. The niggas were for revenge for trying to get niggas laced. And we had the epic shootouts. Detroit tried to get away, he tried to get in a helicopter. Ricky trying to flee the scene. James' adrenaline is wearing down, he can barely even see. He's firing missing shots at Ricky. Detroit makes it to the helicopter, but it's only one seat for one. James gets to Detroit. Ricky ends up hitting James with the other syringe. It's like, oh man. Ricky ends up turning on Detroit, shooting him done deal dead as shit. Ricky about to get in the helicopter. James pulls himself together. It's a battle in the helicopter. They up in the air all the beef. After the mayhem, James ends up pulling Ricky out the helicopter. Both of them are floating to their death. James ends up snapping Ricky's neck in air, done deal dead as shit. As he's falling back to the earth, he calls his girl Amy one more time, leaves a message saying that he broke his promise again. He ends up falling to the ground, hitting the car, done deal dead as shit. And that's the end of the movie. Now, apparently there's a Crank 2 on here. I'm thinking to myself, how could he even do a Crank 2? James is done dead as shit. He fell out the fucking helicopter. Well, I'm about to watch it and find out. You already know what it is, Mr. Ow, big. Look at his slogan.